The Dave Hooker Show.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app.
Download now for free.
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
A special recruiting edition of the program with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, and let's get right to it. Jake Merklinger scheduled to make his announcement in the noon Eastern hour, and that has happened. Caleb, Tennessee picks up a highly rated quarterback. Your thoughts as he commits to Tennessee over a couple of other schools, but we really always thought it was Tennessee all along. Your thoughts on Merklinger?
Yeah, this is a huge pickup for Tennessee. This solves a few things for them. They only had one quarterback that anybody thought was going to compete in 2024, and that was Nico Iamaleava. And because Joe Milton III is going to be gone, Gaston Moore, Navy Schuler, I don't think either of us think that either of them is really a serious contender to start. So there needed to be some quarterback depth. They get that with Jake Merklinger. He's a little bit shorter than Nico. He's 6'3". I think more of a conventional pro-style quarterback, a better fit probably for the NFL. Brings a little bit something different to the table. I think Nico may be a better fit for Josh Heupel's offense specifically. But if the game changes within a year or two, Heupel has options now, and that's huge. You always need at least two options at quarterback. So this is a big pickup for Tennessee.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, can't overstate it. Obviously, big pickup as a quarterback.
No, interesting group of suitors as Tennessee's finalists were along with Georgia, Michigan State, and North Carolina. A look at those with North Carolina and what they've done with Drake May, who may well win a Heisman Trophy before he's done with the Tar Heels. Maybe that's part of the reasoning for North Carolina, as they've shown that they can at least produce and help improve a quarterback. So maybe that's part of it. Then Georgia, the in-state Bulldogs made a major run at him. I wonder if the hiring of Mike Bobo affected his decision, because that's not a wow hire, and we can get further into that. And then Michigan State was thought to be the other suitor. So that's a little bit of an eclectic group. What do you make of the group of suitors? And I want to be really clear for those that don't follow recruiting on a regular basis. This is a 2024 guy. So this is not a guy, as Caleb said, that's going to come in this year and provide some depth for Tennessee, who just has two scholarship quarterbacks on its roster. But what do you make of the group of final suitors, Caleb?
I think this has something to do with, right, a belief from the it was a weird collection of suitors. I have to say that. I get North Carolina, you can maybe believe in what's happening with Drake May, because let's be honest, until the end of last year, you and I both thought he might be a Heisman candidate. I remember us talking about that and thinking he may be the best pro prospect. And then he kind of got exposed towards the end, but you could see that with UNC. Georgia, he's from Georgia. They're two-time defending national champions. Stetson Bennett just got to go to New York and had no business going to New York or even sniffing New York. So I could see and he's probably thinking, if they could do that for Stetson Bennett, what could they do for me? Michigan State was probably the one that threw me off the most. Given the style of program Mel Tucker's running up there, which is running back centric, given the fact that they were underachieving this past year, that there are already some questions, I really didn't think Tennessee was going to lose out to Michigan State. I mean, all in all, Tennessee made the most sense for this. I think Georgia probably made the second most sense. And then if I could get into his head, it was Tennessee 1, Georgia 2, UNC 3, and Michigan State 4.
I would certainly think so. And like you said, the weird one was Michigan State. But as far as Tennessee, what this means for the Vols is that I don't think they're ever going to have an issue at quarterback, much like Tennessee. If you want to go through the 90s and through most of the 2000s, they never had an issue, a talent at quarterback. Now, could you have elite ones that are a higher level, like a Peyton Manning? Certainly. And you don't want to just lump those together with anybody. But with Josh Heupel's offense, I don't foresee a day where they just don't have talent at the quarterback position.
I don't either. I think that given what happened last year with Hendon Hooker and what actually happened with Joe Milton in the Orange Bowl, elite quarterbacks are going to want to commit to Tennessee nonstop from here on out. And let's be honest, in Josh Heupel's offense, you don't even have to be that elite. Look at other quarterbacks that he's made look great. I mean, he turned Drew Lock into an NFL draft pick. He had Dylan Gabriel looking good. I'm forgetting the other UCF quarterback he had. He's somewhere else now. I think he's at FSU. But anyways, Josh Heupel has made a lot of quarterbacks look great that were not 4-star and 5 stars. Now 4-star and 5-star QBs are going to be waiting in line to try to commit to Tennessee. And we talked about this yesterday. We were wondering if there was going to be any transferring out with players dealing with competition. I think Tennessee is going to be a school where a quarterback will accept a little bit of competition for a year to see if they could win that job, because I think it's too good of an opportunity to pass up, because Heupel's offense, it's easy to learn. As we've talked about, there's going to be a lot of chances for you to connect on some deep balls, and it's just going to be hard for you to not look like a highly touted NFL draft prospect towards the end.
Let me offer this too. Jay Johnson, for those that don't know, is the offensive coordinator now at Michigan State, and he was a quality control coach at Georgia. Easy for me to say. So I guess there was a tie there. That was in the late 2010s. It still surprises me that he really considered Michigan State. If he did, this might have been a courtesy thing with Jay Johnson to say, I appreciate you recruiting me early, to be quite frank with you. But as far as taking one from the state of Georgia, I'm not going to say this is Deion Grant or Cozy Coleman or Jamal Lewis. And for those that don't know, when they committed, it really opened the floodgates that led to a lot of other players from Georgia. I'm not willing to go there by any stretch of the imagination, but anytime you have a win in Georgia and you're Tennessee, it is a bigger win than any other state. If it's the exact same player and he's in Georgia or he's in any other of the 48 states other than Tennessee and Georgia, it's significant for that very reason. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Absolutely. Winning out of Georgia is huge, and that carried on until the late 2000s. I mean, I remember even when Derek Dooley was not loved as a hire at first, and he nailed it at the press conference. When he got Derek Rogers out of Georgia, that bought him some goodwill through that first offseason, which was a huge deal at the time. And I think that winning battles with Georgia nowadays with Kirby Smart there, it was only going to get harder. So getting an elite quarterback out of Georgia, well, let's be honest, Georgia's going to want some more depth at quarterback going into the future. That's a big win, especially when you have Nico Iamaleava already there. You're seeing a guy saying, I'm willing to embrace competition to play in Josh Heupel's offense. I'm willing to leave my 2-time national championship home state school that just sent a quarterback to New York for the Heisman. I'm willing to leave that behind because of what I believe in Tennessee. That's a huge, huge deal and a huge get.
Okay, now let's address this. And I'm addressing it partly because Dennis Dodd said that Nico had been a little disappointing. I can't remember the verbiage he had used, which I think is absurd, unless he knows something I don't. And I respect Dennis Dodd. I don't mean this to sound like a shot at him. I just think it's way too soon to know. But could you at all read into this at all that Nico Iamaleava has been at all disappointing and Tennessee feels like they need to get a starter in for the 2024 season? Could you read that at all? Even an inkling, Caleb?
No, not at all. I think it's natural to go after a quarterback in every class if you can. And the idea that you shouldn't have 2 scholarship quarterbacks on a roster is crazy. And if Nico Iamaleava wasn't going to accept that and want to transfer out after that, that's not a quarterback with the right intangibles that you want anyway. And I think that you have to accept that you may not get a quarterback every class anymore, like you've talked about, but you at least have to have 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster just for depth purposes, if anything. And if you're a quarterback and you can't accept that, well, you shouldn't be playing college football as a quarterback. It's just that simple. I think this was obvious that Josh Heupel was going to need somebody because Joe Milton III is going to be gone after this year. And so I don't think there's anything to be concerned about with this. I think the big thing is he got a different style of a quarterback to a certain degree. I guess you could say they're both pro-style quarterbacks, but their strengths are a little bit different. I think that's kind of something Heupel was looking for too. Who would best be a fit for my offense based on their different strengths? And if he has to adapt, again, right now we both agree that Nico is created in a lab for Josh Heupel's offense. So my money is all on Nico starting for Josh Heupel next year. But what happens if the game changes in a year? What happens if something neither you nor I foresee, people figure out Josh Heupel's offense a little bit and he's got to tailor it, and all of a sudden Merklinger is a better fit? That could happen. We don't know yet.
Well, and I've been told they're working with Nico's delivery a little bit, so that always concerns you. I mean, could he, if you're reworking mechanics, that could always go south. I'm not saying it will, but you always have to have options. So here's the difference in recruiting just 5 years ago and recruiting now. Jake Merklinger never would have come to Tennessee if you want to go pre-2018. Because that's along the lines when the transfer portal was opened up. That's along the lines when there's NIL money. So Tennessee's able to, I'm sure, dole out some NIL money to Jake. But the other thing is, this would have been the top of year, Caleb. And I don't mean this as any sort of insult to BJ Coleman, but this would be the top of year where you would go get a BJ Coleman, a guy that is local, loves Tennessee, not highly rated. You pop him in there, you got your backup for the foreseeable future. That's what you would have done. But nowadays with the transfer portal, Jake Merklinger looks at it, if I'm Jake, and I say I can go there, and if I'm not happy, I can cruise out. So that's how different it is. So that to me is totally offsets any concern about Nico not being up to snuff at this point in his career. Because if I'm Jake Merklinger, I'm excited to be a part of this offense. It's just not like it used to be, but it'll be interesting to see because this is still evolving. Can Tennessee pick up 4-star or better quarterbacks each and every year? Can the best programs in the nation pick them up every year, the best offenses, because they can cruise if things don't work out? Caleb, I think that's possible, which sounds crazy.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there is, like I said, there's no reason that they can't, given what Josh Heupel runs. Quarterbacks are going to think you weigh risk reward here. The reward of the chance to start in Josh Heupel's offense outweighs the risk of you may not win the job as a freshman with competition, knowing that you can transfer and go elsewhere really quickly. I think that's the story out of this. Like you said, Merklinger say he doesn't win the job. What if Merklinger doesn't win the job? He still might stay in the system because he might say, you know what? I didn't win the job, but I still got a chance to start if I stay in this offense. There's going to be quarterbacks that are going to risk staying in the offense for a couple of years, even if they have to sit, because they want the chance to start in Josh Heupel's system. Josh Heupel's system, until a couple of Heisman caliber quarterbacks fail in the NFL, which, happened with Mike Leach, happened with Steve Spurrier. Until that happens, NFL scouts are going to be coming to Tennessee to look at their quarterbacks for quite some time. And it takes a little while for scouts to realize, these quarterbacks are a complete product of the coach. One, I don't think that's the case with all of Josh Heupel's quarterbacks. We already talked about. I think Hendon Hooker is going to be a surprise in the NFL for some team at some point. I just don't know when. Sorry. I was going to say we think Nico Iamaleava may not be as good of an NFL prospect as Arch Manning. That doesn't mean he can't be good in the NFL in the future. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think it'll be really interesting to see if Hendon Hooker has success, because I can guarantee you recruiters now are saying that Hendon Hooker's numbers are a product of the system. If he has success, if he's drafted in the first round, some people think he could go number 5. I think that dismays any argument you have. I mean, if a recruiter sits down and tells me as a 4-star guy that you're just going to be a product of the system, you might put up big numbers, but we'll get you ready for the NFL, I would look and I would say Hendon Hooker just went first round, and he was turned down essentially for playing time for Virginia Tech and had to leave, and they developed him. So I think that helps Tennessee. Continue your thought. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I was kind of rambling towards the end. That was pretty much my thought on this whole situation too. I think that if Hendon Hooker gets drafted in the first round, Nico Iamaleava does what I think he's going to do, which is set record after record after record at Tennessee. Tennessee is going to become a dream place for quarterbacks for a little while. And it could stay that way if quarterbacks start succeeding in the NFL, which is the one difference that would be between Josh Heupel and a Mike Leach or a Steve Spurrier. I think by the end of Steve Spurrier's tenure, even quarterbacks were like, he's not going to have me ready for the NFL, even if he helps me put up gaudy stats in college.
Agreed.
And I think that this is where you're going to see it's going to be worth competing for the starting job. And Merklinger, don't count out the different skill set he brings from Nico next year.
Agreed. I'm more of a pro style guy. Like you said, I think Nico is a great fit, got a whip, but there are some technique things that they're working on, so you never know. Hit the like button in case you're not used to joining us. We greatly appreciate that. We're live 10 a.m. Eastern time each and every weekday, so that's our regular show. So we'll be with you and have some more reaction throughout the week. But when you look at Tennessee's class, pretty impressive. So you have Merklinger now, who's a 4-star. And then the next highest rated prospect would be Jonathan Eccles, the athlete out of IMG Academy. Excuse me, 4-star prospect as well. Then you have J.J. Harrell out of Mississippi. J.J. Harrell is a wide receiver, 4-star as well. Caleb Beasley, related to, of course, Aaron Beasley, 4-star prospect, a cornerback. Marcus Gordy Jr. is the athlete out of Cleveland, Tennessee, Bradley Central High School. He is a 4-star prospect. And then Carson Gentle out of McCallie in Chattanooga is a 3-star prospect. So you're now looking at 6 commitments, and all but one of them, 5, as a matter of fact, are 4-star or better, or 4-star commitments. That's a pretty darn good start to the class as they head into what has become the biggest recruiting month in June here in a couple of weeks.
No, it's a great start to the class. They have, you're right, 4 4-stars or 5 4-stars now, I believe. 5 4-stars. You're right. I think Marcus Gordy Jr. is on the fringe. I think Rivals has him as a 3-star, but take what you will with that. But either way, they also are addressing certain things. For instance, they got two defensive backs. They got an elite cornerback and a solid safety. We know there are issues in the backfield. Again, I think they should be better in the defensive backfield this year because they have more depth. They're obviously looking to add more of that even going into next year in 2024, which will be huge for them when they have some competition to start there. I think J.J. Harrell, we're talking about quarterbacks. Josh Heupel has a stocked cupboard of receivers he can pick from over the next couple of years.
So are we seeing, is Merklinger the first, and I'm going to tell you, I believe it is, the first example of Josh Heupel having success on the field helping recruiting? Because I don't think you pick up another 4-star quarterback after you just got the highest rated quarterback in the history of college football recruiting at Tennessee, which Nico is. I don't think you get that guy if Tennessee doesn't win 11 games last year.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think this is maybe not the first, but definitely the most notable player. I'm trying to think of some guys who committed towards the late last year, but I mean, they were defensive guys you would think may not want to really play in this system as much. So you're right. I mean, Arian Carter committed late, but I think Arian Carter just committed to Tennessee because he wants to go to Tennessee. I don't think it has anything to do with Josh Heupel and his success. I mean, the guy plays linebacker. Tennessee's not enticing for defensive players at this point. So you're right. I think Jake Merklinger, this is probably the first clear-cut example of success on the field and success with the system being a draw for a quarterback. I don't think it was one close.
A bunch of people are jumping on board for the first time. So if you're on YouTube, please click that like button. We greatly appreciate that. Let's bring some more people in. So if you're Nico Iamaleava, are you at all concerned that Tennessee so aggressively would go after another quarterback at all? Even 1%?
If you're at all concerned, you don't need to, like I said, you don't need to be playing college football. You're going to always have another scholarship quarterback on your roster. I mean, Dave, do you want a quarterback for your team that doesn't want any other quarterback competing with him for a job?
Yeah, I don't think based off all I've heard about Nico that he's concerned at all. And not even 1%. I think you have a year head start. I go back to Peyton Manning's recruitment. The one thing he said is he would not go to a school that took a quarterback in the class before. So I think if Nico's worried about that, then yeah, there's an issue. And I don't think he is. Everybody that I've talked to has said that he's the real deal. He has every opportunity to be special. Whether or not he will, we'll see. So somebody said, unfortunately, UGA's offense is not quarterback driven like UT, so anybody can get back there as long as they're a good decision maker. A walk-on quarterback with no scholarship can get back there and win. Well, either that or Stetson Bennett was not properly evaluated from the get. And after what I've seen in his moxie in the fourth quarter, I think that's the case. I think Georgia hates losing this guy, Merklinger. I'll be frank with you. I don't think you want to lose this guy. And I think if you look at their program, they could be better at quarterback throughout Bennett's career. I'm not talking about last year when he was just legend in the fourth quarter, but throughout his career, they want somebody that better than Stetson Bennett for a 4-year period.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stetson Bennett, we're talking about him like he was a nothing burger for them. He made it to New York. People didn't overlook him towards the end. He made it to New York over Hendon Hooker, which we all find to be ridiculous. I don't care that Hendon Hooker got hurt. He belonged in New York over Stetson Bennett in December among the Heisman finalists.
The other question I think is interesting is, for those that don't know, by the way, new people on board, hit the like button. Let's get as many people as we can. So Mike Bobo hired as Georgia's offensive coordinator, which is about the biggest yawn ever. He was the offensive coordinator under Mark Richt. That was Mark Richt's offense. It's very pro style. There's nothing really essentially special about it. You're not going to throw a ton of the time. You're going to be run based. You're going to rely on your defense. So that trend for Georgia of hiring Bobo and being defensive based, does that hurt them in recruiting quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks moving forward? I'm not saying that they're not going to get a 4-star guy each and every year. They can. But the elite guys, does this hurt them?
I think it could. I think it did. I don't think the style hurt them. I think the coordinator themselves hurt them. Todd Monken was a pro-style guy, but we all agree Todd Monken was creative. He did use analytical data at times to help maximize talent. There's a reason the Ravens wanted him to begin with. I think they thought he could work with Lamar Jackson. That's obviously not going to happen since Lamar is not staying in Baltimore, it sounds like. But I think there was trust in his creative mind. Mike Bobo is beyond bland. I'm with you. I don't think he's that good of an offensive coordinator. That was Mark Richt's offense. The offense was very bland for years. It was kind of funny. Mark Richt, I actually think, is a great pro-style X's and O's offensive coach. I think he would have been an amazing NFL offensive coordinator in the right system at the right time. But I think Mike Bobo, that's a step back to the past. Look, I'd say the same thing if Jim Chaney were hired now, honestly. And I know there's a lot of belief in Jim Chaney as an offensive coordinator, but I don't think – I think the game has some – now, he's adapted better than Mike Bobo has because Jim Chaney actually did used to run the spread in different stops. But I think the game has passed both of them by, and they're a little too vanilla. Even for a team like Georgia that's so loaded – where you can afford to be vanilla, I think you need a little bit more of a creative. You can run an NFL offense, that's fine, but I think you need to be a little bit more creative. I mean, NFL teams are getting more creative now than a Mike Bobo or a Jim Chaney.
Yeah, agreed. Go ahead and smash on that like button. We appreciate that. Brings more people in. And maybe if you're catching us at an odd time, you need to go ahead and subscribe. We'll have Jacob Warren on the YouTube channel this afternoon. And always weekdays, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. It'll be Caleb Calhoun and me, Dave Hooker. Every Friday, we're joined by Fred White, the former Tennessee safety, and Josh Ward, a frequent contributor to the program, and John Adams will be a part of the show here coming up. So the very latest on the Vols spring practice and the very latest on recruiting as well. Go to offthehooksports.com. So again, Tennessee picks up a monstrous commitment, or at least a really, really big commitment. And as of now, they are ranked 13th in the nation, the 2024 class. Jake Merklinger from Calvary Day School in Savannah, Georgia. 6'3", 195 pounds. Picks Tennessee over Georgia, North Carolina, and Michigan State. Enjoy your day. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been